Here's a question for you. Which country in the world has the best climbing gyms? Well, I don't know because I haven't been to every country in the world. But this summer, I did go to 6. Let's talk about them. So the first climb of my summer was here in Denmark at Boulders in Copenhagen. Now, that's cheating, maybe, because I live here, but I wanted to have a complete record. To make things even worse, I'm not even going to show you the end of this climb because I'm saving that footage for my next video, a review of these guys right here. Subscribe if you want to see that. But the holiday really began in Hungary, more specifically Budapest. And let me just say, Budapest is an amazing city. It's got everything. It's got art, it's got culture, it's got history, it's got the nightlife, the food. If you're in Europe or traveling around Europe, take the time, go visit Hungary. And so, fueled up on inspiration from the combined semi-finals of the Olympics, we headed over to Mountex bouldering. It was a little weird.
Get your ropes checked if not afraid, because that could be dangerous.
It was a bit like Aladdin's cave. When we arrived there, we didn't find a gym, but an outdoors shop. And I thought I'd screwed up and maybe brought us to a bouldering supplies shop instead of a bouldering gym. But actually, at the back of the shop, there was this tiny little door. And when you went through it, there was these spiral staircases. And then in a side room, that was where the actual bouldering gym was. It was like someone had converted their apartment into a climbing gym. The woman running the place was super kind and we had a great time there, even though it was really hot, really stuffy and really crowded. The boulders were pretty straightforward and often quite strengthy, but the plus side is if you climbed there regularly, you would get strong very fast. The grading here was based on the scale from very easy to medium, etc. And I do have to draw this up as a point of criticism, because whether something is easy or not is purely subjective. It depends on people's skill, on their range of motion, on their experience. And I actually saw some newer climbers while I was there getting a bit frustrated because they couldn't handle anything that was labeled easy. So if you do own a climbing gym, or you do run a climbing gym, just don't do this. It's not nice. As I said, the gym was super crowded, so I only managed to get one climb nailed down on camera. And I'll just say this once for the whole video, but if the camera work is a little strange, it's because I was asking my friends to do it. So friends, I'm really grateful, but you gotta work on your camera skills. I also tried to get footage of this hard climb, which I end up failing in the most miserable way. But it was hot, it was crowded, the dog ate my climbing shoes, etc, etc, etc. So far, 2 gyms and only 1 top, but our chances are about to change in Bratislava, a short train ride from Budapest. It has more the feeling of a small English town than a capital city, but it also has good beer, good food, and some of the friendliest people that I met on this trip. Now, the gym we visited here was a sport climbing gym, i.e. Not just boulders, and it made me super jealous that we don't have one of these here in Copenhagen. Because just look at this place, there are auto belays everywhere. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my harness with me though, so we just have to stick to the boulders. I felt like the problems here had a very lead vibe to them, by which I mean occasionally when I was climbing, I just felt the urge to clip in an invisible rope. I told my girlfriend this, who I was climbing with, and she thought I was absolutely crazy. So make of that what you will. I did get some more interesting footage in this gym though. I was particularly proud of this crimpy project. The grading here was on a color scale. I'm trying to remember. I think from memory it was yellow, green, blue and red. So this was one of the top half of the more difficult climbs in the gym. And since I dissed slabs in the last video to try and fit in, I just want to clarify that actually I love this kind of climb. And it probably explains why I was able to flash this despite it being one of the harder grades. And when you were done with the first section, there was a whole another room. I thought it might be a kid's room because the height was actually quite low, but they also had the moonboard in here, so Make of that what you will. While we were in Bratislava, we met a Slovak who told us that in Austria, even the farts smell better. I can now confirm that that is not true. We visited Vienna during a 35-degree heat wave, which really sucked, especially because, as non-Europeans might not be aware, us continentals do not believe in air conditioning. So there was only one place to go and escape the heat. This is Boulderbar, or more accurately, one of the boulder bars in Vienna. And I have to say, once again, I found myself super jealous because this place was just cool. It was like a maze of boulders that just kept going. And on top of that, they did a bunch of other cool stuff. For example, organizing outdoor trips for their members. And I found myself wondering why all commercial gyms don't do this. The setting was very comp-like, and some of the holds there genuinely amazed me. There was this one green dish that was huge, and I don't even know if I managed to get it on camera, but the thing was just massive. They were using the font grading system, so you know that they're cool, but I'm way less familiar with that, which doesn't make a difference, but I kept getting mixed up between 6A and 6C, and thinking that I'd flashed some crazy difficult boulder. I included this problem because it was on a really interesting shaped wall, and also because for some reason no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't do this rockover move without making this ridiculous noise. Finally, I also wanted to include what I think is the coolest idea for a slab wall I've ever seen, illustrated here by Dr. X, where most of the climb was set against this glass pane that looked into the cafe so that the people in the bar had something to look at to keep them amused. Next up, Germany, more specifically Mainz, which is not the usual tourist trap, but I was visiting some friends and I wanted to see how things were at their local gym, Blockwerk. My friend told me that this place started out small, but as this place grew in popularity, it had to keep expanding and expanding. So the walls were actually split over 3 buildings. The main building, this kind of barn in the middle of the complex, and then an extra room that was part of the upstairs of a completely different building. All of this was to say that if you climb there, you will almost certainly never run out of projects. Now, I didn't really record that much because, as you can imagine, I was just catching up with an old friend. But I did manage to film this absolutely sensational highball wall, which was about double the size of any of the other walls in the gym. I could only really get good footage of the yellow one because although I tried the harder climbs, the cruxes were all at the bottom, which means I couldn't even capture any fantastic falls. Which is probably part of the point. You don't want people taking uncontrolled falls from the top of a high ball wall. Nevertheless, it was still really fun, and as you might be able to see, the yellow route actually forked and formed 2 separate routes to the top. So when I reached the end, someone inevitably shouted to climb back down the other side.
Climb down, climb down.
Which, you know, I gladly obliged. It added a bit to the challenge because you actually have to climb back into the cave, which is a move that I'm really not well practiced at. So in the end, I just ended up cutting loose and swinging back in, which at least looks flashy and gives you guys something to enjoy.
Yeah, come on.
Swing the doo-doo. Yeah, come on.
Easy, keep going. Yeah, that's it. Nice one. Ale, come on.
Come on. Nice.
The last leg on our trip was Manchester in the UK. Now, probably most of you know the most famous climbing gym in Manchester is the Depot, and we did plan to go there, but we ended up running out of time. So instead, we went to overhand climbing, and it was definitely worth the trip. It turned out that the GBU team had been training there the week before, especially exciting because this was fresh off the back of Toby Roberts Olympic win, but they still had some of the comp simulation boulders set up in that room. Now all of those were obviously too hard for me, but they also set up some other climbs that were a bit easier, including this one. But give it to me because this is the closest I will come to ever climbing in an Olympic Games. Now I really love it when you get the feeling from a climb that the route setter is trying to teach you something without being there to coach you themselves. And that was certainly the case with this climb. You had to release your heel hook with a certain degree of control to avoid swinging out. And it made you repeat this move a couple of times until it was drilled into you. In case you can't tell, I really enjoyed it here. The setters had that knack of making even lower grade climbs really interesting, which makes you just want to climb everything. And since we were visiting with a really mixed ability group, this was especially important. The vibe here was super friendly and everyone had a really, really fun time. Now I'm biased. I love Manchester. I will be back there again and I can't wait to visit Rockover next time I go. And alas, the holiday was over. But don't tune out just yet because there was still one more trip. That's right, another climb at Beta Boulders, this time in Sulheim. And a wave of familiarity washed over me. Clean holds and very nice technical setting. I managed to also record this crimpy project after a few failed attempts. And I also failed to record finishing this dyno. But I did eventually do it, so keep an eye on the shorts feed if you want to see that one in the bag. This trip was obviously absolutely amazing, and I've only showed you the climbing parts. And I think that I've learned that thanks to the increased popularity of bouldering, there are great gyms in basically any city that you can go to in Europe. And maybe you don't have everything. Maybe you don't have a highball wall, auto belays, competition, simulation, or even extremely interesting setting. But no matter what, you will have something that will make you a stronger climber. Climbing in other gyms will help you appreciate your own strengths and weaknesses. Because whether you like it or not, you are a product of your surroundings. In other words, you're a product of every gym you've ever climbed in. So next time you're catching a train or boarding a flight, don't forget to take these with you. If you want to watch more climbing gym reviews, check out the video on the left. Otherwise, roll the dice with the algorithm and pick the one on the right. I'll see you there.
Yeah, this is tricky.